adopt a child. One of the ladies on his route, because he told everyone, you know, my daughter's looking to adopt, do you know anyone? And this lady on his route called him one night and said, yeah, my foster sister's niece has a child to place for adoption. 3 weeks from that phone call, Bailey was living with me. He was quiet. He didn't talk. He liked to play with buttons and gadgets. His favorite toy was the microwave. And he would, no matter if there was a microwave there, he would just in the sky just go boop, 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 boop. My then husband worked a lot, and I stayed home with Bailey. And so it was just us and our animals, and he was pretty quiet. You know, he'd talk to me, but he didn't, at school it was just a matter of he didn't know how to make friends, and he really didn't know how to be a friend. So it was very difficult for him.
And so because he didn't know how to make friends, he
would act out. He's always, as we've been told since, thrives on negative attention. And he was always the one that would act out and that wanted any kind of attention. And his birth parents, his birth mother at least, was violent. He has a scar from being pushed down the stairs. He told us, well, he didn't tell us, another family member of this person said that he had been chased around the house with knives. So I think that had a lot kind of ingrained in his mind that that was maybe the norm and that you were supposed to do that and that's how you played. Elementary school with kindergarten was you know, okay. First grade was phenomenal. He had an amazing teacher. At that point I was pregnant with my daughter, and she knew that Bailey, you know, kind of was coming into his own. He already had, you know, a diagnosis of ADHD, so was on medication. And about that time, he also then he'd passed out in school. And his teacher had called, and we took him to the doctor and ended up going. And through a couple of years of testing, he was diagnosed with neurocardiogenic syncope, which is a benign fainting disorder. And you pass out because of a sodium imbalance, and you're not able to maintain sodium levels. So he's always had to salt his food, drink extra Gatorade, and an excessive amount of fluids for a normal person. Junior high was horrible. That's when he started really getting much more verbal with threats, with his aggression. He started in 6th grade being hospitalized in psychiatric hospitals. He was 11 for his first hospital admission. And
where was that?
It was at the Pavilion in Champaign.
How did that happen? How did you get him to the hospital?
He, while we were sleeping, took a knife and cut our kitchen counters, cut up all of the leather furniture, cut his bedding, cut his clothing with scissors, it was destroyed, cut the cat's whiskers off, cut his sister's hair, and wrote profanity all over her body. I woke up, saw all of that, and called the psychiatrist and said, what do we do? This has gotten too far, it's out of hand, I need help and I need it now. He said, go to Champaign, take him to Champaign. So we did. He called and he got the admission for us. And that was his first stay, and he was there for about 1 month. And he left and kind of seemed to be doing, okay. And it wasn't probably a month or so later that he was back for kind of the same types of things, but then he also was trying to drown himself. My parents had a pool, and so then we wouldn't allow him to be unsupervised, and we had to stay there. So then he tried drowning himself in the bathtub and the bathroom sink. So we turned off the water to the upstairs so that, he had no access. And was admitted again, was there Not very long. He was there about 2 weeks, and I would go and visit him all of the time, and just saw that there was no progress, that he still was the person that, in his mind, he would have been dead had I not adopted him, and the voices in his head were telling him to kill me because of me adopting him and saving his life. So that's how he felt that it was okay to want to kill his mom. So then he started trying to kill himself because he wanted me to live, and thought, well, I'll just kill myself instead because I'm a burden on my mom. I cause her too much stress, and she's, not able to have a real normal life because she's always dealing with these things with me. And that's been his thought really throughout his whole life. That has never changed in Bailey.
The thought that he is a burden on other
Yes,
people.
that he's on me. Not anyone else, because he's still, one of his disorders is reactive attachment disorder. So he just doesn't form a bond with people. He doesn't really relate well at all with peers. He's always related better when he was young to adults. We had a good bond, we were close, but those voices, those demons inside of him just felt that he needed to kill, and he's always been very descriptive in who he was to kill and how he was to kill them. Came home and we just kind of hung out, thought we'll just, sit here and, pray and wait. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, my husband had this, thought or a whim, went upstairs, came back downstairs, he's like, call the police back, the gun's gone. What do you mean the gun's gone? It was in his safe. It was in a combination safe. I called the police back, 1 in the morning, and they said, okay, stay there, we're coming back. I said, why are you coming back? The gun's gone. They said, we're coming back. So they came back. They then had to take a theft report because the gun was gone, and they needed to know, all of this information on it. I said, fine. So we give it all to them, and now I'm like, this is scary. At that point, knowing how Bailey felt about my ex-husband, who he would refer to by his first name because he refers to my husband as his dad, that I gotta call him. I bet Bailey's gonna try to find him. And so I called him, and he's like, oh, no. I'm fine. I've got doors, I've got locks. I said, no. I'm serious, and you need to protect yourself, because at that night Lily was with him, my daughter was with him. Said, you've got to be smart because I think he's headed towards you. He didn't do anything about it, but I told the police that that's where I thought, they said, where do you think you'd go? And I said, well, I would go towards, his former father's house, or I would go towards, his paternal grandparents, because he had been talking of wanting to kill them both. And they sent 3 squad cars over and banged on the door and woke him back up to verify safety and to kind of, secure the area. And he wasn't there. And they found him then 2 hours later, big bangs on my door, and an officer's at my door and said, we found him. I just wanted to hug him. I was just so excited. I don't think it's probably right. I shouldn't hug him, but I wanted to. And it's okay, cool. Can I go see him? Where is he? I said, he's at Broman. I said, good, keep him there. So he's safe? I said, yeah. I said, awesome. He goes, you can go see him now. So I'm going up the stairs. My husband, it's dark. My husband's on the stairs. I run into him. Scream. Someone's banging on the door again. I said, oh my God, they think it's Bailey, and now, they're scared. And I open it up again, and the officer puts his foot through the door and walks in and says, secure the dogs. I said, what? He goes, this just became a crime scene. I said, how did it become a crime scene? He said the reason he left is because he accidentally fired the weapon in the home. I said, oh, he did not. He said, we have to investigate this as a crime scene. So I now have a whole street full of emergency vehicles. Police are coming in the house. And he's like, there's a hole in the wall. There's a hole in the wall somewhere. I'm like, no, there's not. He's like, how do you turn the lights? So I'm going through the kitchen, and I'm like, and I was so freaked out that I couldn't think of the word ceiling fan. So I'm like, there. And as he moved, I saw a hole in my wall that wasn't there before. I screamed. He goes to, pull his weapon on me. I'm like, no, sorry, you scared me, I'm sorry. My husband then comes downstairs because he doesn't know I am screaming. The kitchen's still dark. He comes up behind me. I scream again. And Officer Rizzi pulls us up. He's like, ma'am, you have to quit screaming. I said, well, I'm sorry, I'd never done this before. You just told me. And he's like, so just go, what side does the weapon discharge on? And I went, I don't know. It's like, we need to know. Okay, so my husband goes and he gets the box and all the manual and everything. And he's like, it's on the right. So like, how about you go over there? So they sent me to another room and I'm just kind of watching him. And he's like, I found it. Okay, so he finds it, it's all evidence then, and he's, measuring and taking pictures, and he's like, I have to get this, I have to cut a hole in your wall. I'm like, no, you can't! Like, it's a 107-year-old plaster walls, you cannot cut a hole in my wall. And he went, I have to, ma'am, I have to retrieve the bullet. I'm like, I'm just sitting here going, this is not good, this cannot be good. So he goes outside, he comes back inside, and he goes, it's okay. They said that it's not technically a crime scene because no one was killed inside the home. Well, then I'm thinking, what does he mean inside the home? He killed someone outside of the home? He's like, ma'am, he's at the hospital. As soon as we're done here, you can head there. So we basically followed each other to the hospital. He didn't have to cut the wall out. And then I sat there it was probably 4 o'clock by the time I got there after they were done with the investigation inside the house. And they kind of kept coming to me, and one of the officers said, do you want to press charges? So for what? He goes, for the theft of your gun. So, what do you mean? And he said, reporting the gun stolen and having that marked is going to be better for him to get help than to not have it reported as stolen. I said, yeah, I need it reported as stolen then because he did steal my gun. He said, okay, that's good. So I'm sitting there and they were coming back and forth with me. And a friend of mine is a nursing supervisor there, and she had seen him in the ER and saw his name on the computer and had called someone to come and cover the rest of her shift so she could come and sit with me while they were doing all that they were doing. And they told me they were waiting for SAS to come and talk to Bailey, and that SAS would need to talk to me too. So I had to wait out there until they were finished with Bailey. So that's fine. So we're just sitting there talking, and the cops are sitting there. And I knew who now Sergeant Nowers from an incident that was at our neighbor's house, so I knew of him. So then at one point he comes over to me and he goes, can you come over here, please? So we go over kind of by the security area, by the doors, and he said, what's the combination to your safe? I said, what? He goes, what's the combination to your safe? And he goes, is Bailey autistic? I said, yeah. He goes, what's the combination? And I told him, and he just kind of up against the wall, and just with this look, I said, why? He goes, that's what he said it was. I'm thinking, my kids don't know the combination to my safe. He said he's been working on it for hours each day. I said, well, that would explain why his chores aren't done when we get home. He goes, he hacked into your safe. He said he started at 0000 and worked all the way up until he got there. And he said it opened. And he said he took the gun out and he fired it, and that he'd never felt more powerful in all of his life than when he fired that weapon. So he took off because he knew he'd be in trouble then. Like, oh, wow, it's just so that he has me go and sit back down, and I'm waiting. And Sergeant Rizzi comes over and he's talking to me, and I'm still, they're like, we don't know what's taking so long. It doesn't usually take this long. About 6:30-ish, I'm looking through those emergency room, electric doors, and I see these 2 officers walking out with my son in handcuffs. I went up to the little window and said, where's he going? I'm supposed to be talking to them. I was told I could see him. Where are they going? And they said, I believe you should probably talk to the police. And they'd already given me their business cards, both officers, so I had those, and I go out and I'm calling Officer Rizzi and said, what's going on? And, you know, I'd leave a voicemail, so he calls me back and said he was arrested. I'm sorry, you know, that they didn't talk to you, but I guess they didn't feel at that point there was a need to. He's been arrested. Do you have his medication? I said, well, not with me, it's at home. He said, you can bring it to the jail as early as 8 o'clock. I said, fine. So I walked into the jail just in absolute tears, because when I was in the process of adopting Bailey, I had to go there to get fingerprinted. And that was the only time I'd ever been to the jail until I took his medicine after his arrest. So it was a very eerie experience walking back in that building.